Hey, True Believers. Chris Mack coming at you today with New Mutants number 87. This is the first appearance of Cable. And on top of that, this just being a first appearance, so of course the rarity of the book, awesome read as well, guys. Now, you're looking at this, and you're like, wait a minute. New Mutants 87 is supposed to have a red background. So yes, that is correct. The red background is the first printing of this book. And that one is quite expensive trying to get your hands on it since he appeared in Deadpool 2. I was thankfully able to grab an original copy of a second printing of 87, so I can't complain too much. I'm just happy to have this thing in my collection, first printing or not. You know what I mean? Especially as these older books get harder and harder to find. And what's cool is I never noticed this before. I don't know how, but on the cover it's both Liefeld and McFarland. I never noticed that before until I sat down to do this review, and I went, oh wow, that is awesome. Got two big names on the cover, and then when we open up, of course we got stakes, which we will get into in a moment. But what I want to talk about here is it's Louise Simonson writing, Rob Liefeld penciler, Bob Wyack inker, Joe Rosen letterer, M. Raukwitz colorist, Bob Harris editor, and Tom DeFalco editor-in-chief. So not only do you have two big names on the cover, you have another all-star cast working on the book itself. And it shows right here, even though this is very 90s, nonetheless great. Speaking of, the print date on this was March 1990. So this is kind of a majority of the first full appearances of the Mutant Liberation Front, led by a villain that we will talk about here in a moment. And this is a show of power. So these MLFs are trying, Mutant, I had to make sure I had the acronym right, are attacking all these, what is it called? Hold on. I don't think it's on this page. It's a type of power plants, because they're looking for a certain thing for their master. And what I like here is Louise Simonson masterfully paces the book. And what I like here is she takes a note, a page from Claremont's playbook, as she introduces these characters. So, for example, she'll say, they are wilds. Okay, well, how about here? Smashing through the second research station this week, more certain of their ultimate success than in missions past, they near their goal. They can smell success, and now it's time to strike fear into the powerless human souls. They are Wildside, who can distort reality, making them invisible. Reaper, who, through his flail, emits paralyzing neural disruptors. And we go through the cast. Forearm, for example, here, we'll go with him, whose multiple fists carry a super strong wallop. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them, but the reason I'm talking about this is in modern books, again, I know I bring this up, and I'm trying not to, but when you've been reading comics for so long and you start to notice a transition, it kind of kills you because, for example, here, we're just the pace, boom, boom, boom. We're getting their names. We feel what they're trying to do. We understand the stakes. But in other books that I've read, they'll say, for example, I think it was in X-Men Gold or Red, one of them, I don't remember. But they'll say like, oh, Old Man Logan, he's a little grumpy head. Come on. Or they'll say, Blob, Duke Thomas. Is that his name? Or am I thinking of the Signal? Duke Wayne, help me out. I haven't had enough coffee. But then they'll say, oh, he likes the shopping network or something cutesy. We don't need that LOL so random humor, especially in a book that's going to have action. And same thing with the art team here. They don't need to be flat. They don't need to be boring. I mean, look at the way they just come flying in. You kind of have an upward perspective at them, and everyone's just blowing in, showing how they're taking out the guards. That's how writer and art team work together. And that's why through, majority of the late 70s, 80s, and 90s, X-Men, Spider-Man, Daredevil, all those books were hot because they understood what made an action comic pop, a superhero comic book. And then we even get more suspense as the incredible Thumbelina is her name, sets off the bomb. We actually get a countdown. So even though it's cliched in movies, the ticking clock, it helps because as it starts to get down to 0, here's our first appearance at, I was about to say Bishop, at Cable, who's coming in trying to chase the Mutant Liberation Front to get at their boss. Who's their boss? We'll maybe get into that. I don't know if I want to spoil that or not. But nonetheless, something happens that even deters Cable, who's supposed to be this paramilitary guy from the future that knows everything. You know, like, not knows everything, but is a super survivor. Even the MLF are able to keep one step ahead of him, and he doesn't get why. And then we cut to Asgard. And you're like, wait a minute, what? So from what I understand is the New Mutants were sent to Asgard during the Asgardian Wars, which if you guys have not read that, that was a really cool crossover that they did with the X-Men and whatnot. Loved it. It was really entertaining. I have the collected trade. Definitely worth reading. But the New Mutants end up in it. I believe the book is called New Mutants Special Edition #1 from September of 1985. So if you want to check out that event, that's kind of the starting point for the New Mutants. But they've been in Asgard for a while. Danny, I don't think that's Danny there, but here's Danny. She becomes a Valkyrie at this point. So, you know, they find a way to go home because I guess the Rainbow Bridge, try to say that 3 times fast, got destroyed, so they don't have a direct line back to Midgard, I'm thinking Final Fantasy, Midgard, because, so they've been stuck, but they get a map back home, and Rain's excited, everyone's excited, but then Danny says, I can't go, Rain. I'm a New Mutant now and always, but I'm a Valkyrie too, and Hela did terrible things to us, and to Asgard. So, even though this hurts and we're not going to see Danny for a while, you at least see how she's kind of coming to her own and how she's going to adhere to her responsibilities now that Asgard's become her second home. And then before we can get any more with that, and this is what I like about Louise Simonson, is she's able to keep multiple stories, like A, B, C plots going on. So we have the New Mutants, we have Cable, and then we have Skids and Rusty, who are the only New Mutants that were left on Earth while the rest of them got sent to Asgard. But something happened, they're both in the hospital, they're prisoners of the Freedom Force, which is run by Mystique. And they notice that there's the news is talking about the MLF, and then the MLF all of a sudden say that if they don't release Skids and Rusty, who they're in cohorts with, then there's going to be trouble. She says, free the captive mutants known in the press as Rusty and Skids, or we will take them from you. So Mystique's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And here you start to feel a boiling pot start to happen, and things are starting to boil over because Skids finds out that what she knows threatens Mystique, and it has to do something with the human world. So Skids is like, you would kill us for some humans' dirty secrets. So you just kind of like, wait a minute, what's going on? I want to know more about this. It leads you in, because, you know, as you change the plots, you're kind of like, oh, wait a minute, I want to know what's going on with the New Mutants. Why do we go into this? But then you start reading it, and you feel the intensity, and then you cut back again to the New Mutants. You're like, wait a minute, I want to see what's going on with Skids. But then you get hit emotionally, because everyone's getting ready to leave. And what hurts is, you know, Sam and Danny were always co-leaders of the New Mutants. And he even says, I wish you could come with us, Danny. It'll be tough leading the muties without you. It's no use, Sam. As much as I want to go home, honor binds me to Asgard. And Rain's torn up about this because this was one of her best friends. And she goes, I pleaded and begged, and she won't change her mind. Oh, Rick, how can we just leave her? We saved this world, but I lost my best friend. That hits you hard. And then even Tabitha, Boom Boom, who's always been kind of the hothead, like a younger version of Jubilee, is actually crying. And she goes, what am I blubbering for? I should be happy. We're finally going back to subways and record stores and MTV. But the human side. That is some good writing, to take a character who you think's a jerk and give them some human emotions like that. So, spoilers. The boss of the MLF. I know this is an older book, and people are like, why are you worried about spoiling a something-year-old book? Well, there's people like, me, who I didn't get to read this till later down the line, so. Spoilers, this is the first appearance of Strife. But you don't get a whole lot of information about it, you just know it's Strife. And then, for those of you that have the second printing, let me know if your book does this, because as I was reading, I looked down in the corner and I went, oh god, my book's bent. But no. What it is it's extra paper, so I guess whoever had this book before me had to fold that in so it wouldn't get torn in the bagging, because that'll hang out, as you can see. So I don't know if that was like a printing snafu, but anytime there's like product errors on a book, those always helps the value. So if anyone else's second printing and or first printing does that, let me know, because I saw that and I just about had a bit of a heart attack while I was reading this. So anyway, MLF, yes, led by Strife, but that's all you get to know about him. There's nothing else. You just get some dialogue, and you get some like good classic villain dialogue. And again, Cable's on the hunt, trying to go after the MLF because they're going to their next research facility not research facility, they're going after the hospital to go after Skids and Rusty. See how sometimes I get confused, and you guys have sorts of ammo to make fun of me down in the comments. But anyway, before we can get any more of that, again, more beats. Rain, she's like, what's going on here? Because they said that even though they have to take an alternate route home because the Rainbow Bridge is destroyed, there's all going to be all sorts of twists and turns. And so at this point, it kind of feels like everything becomes a cacophony, because we got the MLF, we got the New Mutants, we get action against these people, these aliens that they've never seen before. We cut back to the hospital. They're getting these people getting attacked. Cable goes to attack, and then finally we get a breather. And we finally kind of start to catch up on things that are happening in all the other X books. So it's just kind of like boom, 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 before all of a sudden, bam, we are back with more drama with Skids and Rusty. And this is where the boiling pot that I was talking about finally flows over, with Rusty getting shot. So what does this make Skids do? What's this mean for Cable? How do the New Mutants tie into all this? Guys, definitely, if you can afford a first printing, and I know the second printing now is starting to go up, get it. It's definitely worth it. If not, a couple months back, I did notice, before all the craziness that's going on in the world right now, the local comic shops were releasing these things called True Believers, which are like $1 reprints of classic stories like Amazing Spider-Man #1, etc., so forth. But they had a New Mutants True Believer for $1. So if you're a little strapped for cash with everything going on, but you have a local comic shop and they still have all those True Believers, grab the reprint for $1, so you can at least read the story and enjoy it that way until things start kind of settling down. So with that said, and everything that I just said, if you have enjoyed this, please support your local comic shop first and foremost. And if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you can possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little mutant bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with y'all and hearing your feedback down in the comments below, or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. And with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, True Believers.